And just like that, the season is over for the Dallas Stars. Greetings, everyone that has been sticking around for the season. This is the Two Brothers Mic'd Up Show. If you didn't know what we do, we look at the recent Dallas Stars game, give you our thoughts, and discuss them right here for you on YouTube. So, the season is over. The score was 6-1 in Game 7. Just about everything that could go wrong with that game happened. Video's a little late because I didn't want to do a video the day after because I think there was still going to be a lot of knee-jerk reactions to this game. I felt as if, like most Stars fans did, after the game, you just hated everything about this team. I was ready to trade everybody and just start all over because it just didn't seem like they showed up. But, you know, you give it a little time, you sleep on it a little bit. Maybe we can say some better things about the team since we've let a couple of days go by. So, I pretty much already know what you're going to say, but tell the fans of what you thought about Game 7.
I mean, one team showed up, the other didn't. I mean, the Blues had a plan. They were going to come in, play hard, shoot the puck, just like they've done every game beforehand. And they stuck to it. I mean, I don't really know what Dallas's plan was after the first 10 minutes, because, I mean, the first 10 minutes, like, it seems every Stars game, that was some of the best hockey that the Stars have played. They had pace, they were shooting the puck. I mean, it kind of felt like, alright, this is going to be Dallas's game to do the blowout. But instead, St. Louis gets a little finicky goal to start it off, and then the floodgates and Kari Lehtinen just opened wide, and he said, "Here's the net, come and get it."
Yeah, it's from a goalie that looked so good just 2 days prior to Game 7. We have to wonder how this happened, because it just seemed like he was hitting his stride and we were just going to get a really good Game 7 out of him, but then it's the exact opposite. Kari Lehtinen lets in 4 goals, 1 called back, but all of the goals, man, you have to. The first one you can kind of hang on some defensemen not clearing out the front of the net. But Kari just goes to try to grab the puck, puts his hand down, and the puck gets shuffled off to the side, and you don't even see him react to it. The first goal could, I mean, I want to say it's like a 60-40 defense, maybe a 55-45 split on defense and goaltending on who's to blame there. But those other 3 goals, one was a deflection and it was called back on an offsides. And during the game, I'm like, well, you can't really blame him for it because it was a deflection. But then you go back and you look at that play. I mean, if he's square up to the shot, there's no way it goes in. You know, I wanted to give him so many benefits of the doubt. I think over the course of the season, I have really gotten back onto the Kari Lehtinen train. And he's really kind of proved that in stretches that he can do a lot of good things. You know, when Kari is hot, when Kari Lehtinen is hot, he goes for at least maybe like he can go on a stretch of like 4 games where he's just unbeatable. But then for some reason a light switch just goes off and he can't stop anything. I don't understand. I mean, when you watch Game 6 and you see that first period with Kari Lehtinen, I mean, how do you... it doesn't look like the Blues are really attacking him in any different way. I mean, how do you explain what happened?
I mean, I think, it's always that first goal, something simple as covering the puck. It's knocked away. He doesn't really focus on it that much. Gets scored on him. As we've seen in the past couple seasons, I mean, that one goal that Kari thinks should be a save has just absolutely rattled him for the rest of the game. And it's a haunting curse that has plagued him since he's been with the Dallas Stars. And I mean, just looking at those 4 goals that were scored on him, just even though one was called back, like he looked kind of like a minor league goalie coming into his first NHL game.
Yeah, I think he could have shaken off that first goal. But that Tarasenko goal, I think, was the one that really rattled him. Because, like, 2 minutes later, after that gets called back, Stastny comes and he scores his goal. That just goes right through him. Like, Kari Lehtinen just leaves a puck-sized hole. Granted, Stastny has to hit that point to score.
Well, I mean, I went and actually looked back at that goal to see like what exactly happened. And yes, there's a little space in between the glove and the stick, but you look and the puck hits straight into Kari's stick and rides it up through the hole.
Oh, really?
So I just don't think he was completely set on the post and didn't have his paddle down straight. I think it might have rode up his stick into the opening. But again, like, why is there even that opening right there?
It's tough to just hang all of this on Kari, but Kari put himself in that position. All right, you know what? If it's that third goal that he lets go in with 3 seconds left in the game, the Stars were done. Like, that has such a negative connotation on your team. And the thing about it is, with 3 seconds left, your team is going to the locker room and they're stewing over it. They have now 18 minutes to think about that goal. They have 18 minutes. Yes, they're professional athletes and they should be able to get over it, but that's human nature. If you escape and it's just 2-0, I think it might be a different game. But I still think Kari gets pulled after that intermission. And Lindy Ruff, after the game, he even says, I should have pulled him earlier. I should have pulled him. He should have got pulled after that Stastny goal. And yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, in hindsight, Kari shouldn't have even started this game. But that's what happens. I mean, when you had to ride or die with Kari. You had to find out if he is that goalie that's going to take you to the next level. And he's obviously not. This has to be his last season with Dallas. I mean,
I would think so.
That game right there, that first period, that's going to be one of the defining moments of Kari Lehtinen's career. Like, not just this season, but I think his entire career now fledges on this game, because people are going to look at this game, and that's going to be part of his highlight reel. And other teams are going to look at this, and, if Dallas buys him out and he's on the free market, I mean, who is really going to take a chance on that? It's going to be a team that's desperate. I know that. Or unless we're able, unless we're able to like package him in a deal by retaining some of his salary for another goaltender. But right now, I think this was Kari Lehtinen's last game as a Dallas Star. But then again, you know what? This series as a whole, it's not just on the goaltending. It was on defense as well. If you had instead of a mediocre defense, if you had a good defense, not like great, if you had an above average defense, I think the Stars would have won this in 6, because in 2 of those games the defense let the team down. I think the Dallas Stars take it in 6, and if Tyler Seguin's in this series, I think he makes a difference. How big of a difference, we'll never know, but I do think he makes a difference, because like in Game 6 and in Game 7, the 2 biggest games in recent Dallas Stars history, your captain, Jamie Benn, it's not like he didn't show up, but they are like almost double teaming, triple teaming him to where he can't really get anything done. But then again, these are the games to where Jamie has to step above that. He's considered a top 3 player in the entire league right now. And for him to not get anything out of these last 2 games is a little disappointing on his part. And I know that he's going to take that into the offseason as well. This has to have been Goligoski's last game. I think this was Demir's last game. But as a total series review, how did you look at this series? How do you take from what you saw at the beginning of the season, and how did you see this team at the end of the season?
Well, I mean, it proves offense can take you far, but defense really wins championships, like the old saying goes. I mean, Dallas stunned a lot of teams really early on in the season. They went on their super hot streak. Klingberg was the next biggest thing to defense since Erik Karlsson. I mean, Stars had it going, and then they hit their slump, and that's when you really started to see all the flaws in their game. Because they are a super high-speed offensive team that relies basically on no defense. You have four or five offensive defensemen on your team, and maybe one to stay at home during the season with Oduya. And even he might be considered an offensive defenseman. But I mean, as the season went on, we saw more shifting towards a defensive mindset with bringing up Johns and Lindell, getting his starts and everything. But still the focus was just shoot the puck as many times and try to keep it out of our zone as much as possible, which helped them get to their best season, or best record right now, with the clinching of the Central. But this management really has to look at these playoff series and see that they need a top 2 defenseman in the offseason. I want to trade for a top 2 defenseman and somebody that can back up Goligoski, a defensive top 2 defenseman. And whatever you got to do to get him there, give it up. This team, with the loss of Goligoski, Demirs, maybe Ben, Oleksiak, if all these guys decide to walk, you're bringing in your prospects. And all your prospects are basically offensive defensemen, besides Johns. I mean, this team has to get some big bodies on defense, or they are going to get walked over season after season after season, because teams are going to look at the 2015-2016 season as like how to beat the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that if we do like a big season in review and what we look for into the off season. But you're right. This series did show the flaws in the blueprints of the Dallas Stars. This series did show that you need size. You need size somewhere. Dallas is built small on the wings and in the defense. They have one big defenseman in Johns that's in the lineup. They have another one Alexiak that just never got played, which I think he should have gotten at least a shot after Game 3. I think he should have gotten a shot in the series to come in for someone. Dallas has got to get bigger in one of those two areas. For the most offensively talented team in the league, it showed that they can hit their slumps pretty bad. And it also kind of showed that the coaching staff didn't really make adjustments as they should have. Because you saw St. Louis, their game plan was to crash the net, get as many bodies as they can in there, and try to get garbage goals. Now, Dallas, with their speed, I think they could get at least one or two cracks at that same style. You have everyone crash, try to get a couple of whacks at it and try to get in, and then you'll get pushed out. And then St. Louis will be able to cover that up. Dallas shot high a lot. They hit glass a lot. They missed the net a lot because they were trying for the skill shot of trying to beat Elliott. Yes, Elliott was down a lot. He was in the butterfly style a lot, and he was covering a lot. But still trying to get like garbage goals is what playoff hockey is all about. With the coaching staff not making the adjustments on the offensive side, because, I think St. Louis ended with, 25 goals to 14 goals that Dallas had. That shows you that, the offense needed a change too. It wasn't just defense and goaltending that needed a change. They needed a different philosophy going into it. Yes, they got to Game 7, so something was working, but because St. Louis was able to get 2 in a row, that's ultimately what got them. When they got Game 2 and Game 3, that's what decided this series right there. And you saw St. Louis make adjustments every time that they saw some kind of, weakness in their strategy. Dallas didn't ever really make those changes. They brought in Ritchie, they brought in McKenzie, but other than that, there was no other real big changes. They tried shuffling the goaltending, and then that really set them back, I think. But a lot of the time in this series, you question, just how could this really be going like this? But, St. Louis was built to be a better team. I think Dallas, with that strong start in the season, St. Louis only finished 2 points behind us in the regular season, and that shows yes, we beat them in the regular season, but we weren't even really in the same, with the team that we were skating right then and there. The games that we won were by 1 goal. Their wins were by multiple goals. So this team was not leaps and bounds better than you, but they were really better than this team. Something that, as the playoffs go, were you happy with the result? Because I think in the earliest videos that we were doing, I think I described a successful season as getting out of the first round. Having Dallas get an experience of a playoff win, I think would do more for them than winning a divisional banner, a conference banner. With the playoffs and how it went, do you consider this season a success, or to you was it still lacking?
To a point, it was a success, but I'd say it was more on the lacking side. because Dallas didn't play good in the playoffs. I mean, now don't get me wrong, they played well enough to get the first series win and to get to Game 7, but they really didn't play all that well. I mean, you look back at the season and they're scoring like 5 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals here, but then they're also letting in like 2, 3 goals. So, I mean, they're playing good hockey, but then they get into the playoffs and it's like they can only win by 1 goal.
The first Minnesota game, I think, is the one that they won by multiple goals.
Yeah, I mean, there's only been like 1 or 2 games of the entire playoffs for this team that they won by more than 2 goals. And, I mean, when you tote yourself as this huge offensive powerhouse, I mean, that's got to be demoralizing too, that you can't score the goals that you were scoring in the regular season.
Well, remember, they're losing out on a potential 40-goal scorer out of the playoffs, so offense will dry up a little bit. And down the stretch, the team did really rely on depth scoring. And in the playoffs, it was depth scoring that really dragged us through the mud of the playoffs because, I mean, Jamie Benn had a great first series, but against St. Louis, against a better defensive-minded team, he dried up. Granted, it's because Sagan wasn't there to take away some pressure from him, because it's like if you double-team Ben, then there's Sagan over there. And a lot of those chances that this team was missing, Sagan buries. You know, the Sevier shot that he had like an open net for, that gets put in. The Nichushkin shot where he's just all alone and hits the side of the post, that goes in if it's Sagan. You know, a lot of these chances, if it was Sagan in those spots, it gets put in. But then again, you still have the same defense, you still have the same goaltending, so the outcome of this series could have been the same thing. But I don't... Those blowout wins that St. Louis gets, they might be, you know, it might be 6-4 instead of 6-1, or it might be 4-2, 4-3 instead of 4-1 in those blowout wins. So, I mean, I agree. You know, there is a little bit of lacking going into those playoffs because we had a whole season of looking at this team as a powerhouse that's able to score 5 goals if they wanted to on a whim. But then going into the playoffs, everyone kind of, you know, hunkers down and goes defense, and this team didn't really rally around that mindset of this team, of being able to see that defensive structure on the other team, and they weren't able to expose it. They weren't able to, okay, they're chasing us in, they're giving us high pressure. If they had better passing, I think it would have been an easier way to get around that pressure that they had, because you see 2 people crunching in, pass it out. If you hit someone tape to tape and they're able to get out of the zone like that, I think you're able to expose it. But they couldn't pass, couldn't shoot. They couldn't really hit all that much. I mean, they tried to keep up with St. Louis, and I think a lot of the totals were a little kind to Dallas, because in Game 7 it was 23-19 in favor of St. Louis on hits. I think that's a little kind. I know there's still like a sour taste in your mouth. I certainly didn't see this kind of drumming for a Game 7. I didn't expect this team to not really show up like it did. I guess I gotta go a rating of an F on this one, because, you know, it was a terrible game. You know, at least you go and you look at like the Nashville game that happened, a lot of Blues fans will be like, well, at least, you know what, Dallas tried to fight back a little bit. At least we got a goal. At least, you know, we didn't try to, like, goon it up at the end and try to, like, fight someone towards the end of the game because we were just getting blown out. You know, Dallas took the ass kicking. I think that's what you should do in that sort of, you know, they didn't try to go after some of their good players, you know. It was a little classy, but then again, if you're getting drummed like that and you were down 3-0 in the first period, you kind of just had to take the ass kicking. Do you see any positives out of this game? Where do you?
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you what your positives and disappointments of the first series were and of the second series.
The positives that I took from the first series is that it now gives Dallas this younger core that they have, especially like your Foxa, your Johns, your Janmarks, not your Sagan because he's already tasted victory, and Spezza knows victory, Sharp knows victory. But for these younger players, it gives them that taste of big-time winning, not just regular season winning, not like you're in the regular season and you just went on an 8-game win streak. Getting a playoff series win, I think, boasts confidence, and it only makes you strive harder to get more of it, because playoff success is addicting. Regular season success, go ask Ovechkin. He would trade everything just to get to the Western Conference Finals. You know,
Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference Finals. And, you know, Dallas now has, for their young core, it now has a playoff series win. This Game 7 letdown, it has to go into a series win with what I'm saying. Like, it should strive to be better. This should push them to let them have this never happen again. They should be in the off season working as hard as they can to make sure this never happens again. Now, the downside to this could be this could fester. You know, we saw what happened in the Anaheim series with Kari and this team. It looked like they were so defeated by that Game 6, you know, disappointment with that comeback that the Ducks did. It festered into the following season. Now, you have to hope this team takes a positive from this game and they don't let that fester into the next season, because if you go a step back and you miss the playoffs next season, that's only going to hurt this team. You can't just go playoffs, miss the playoffs, go even further in the playoffs, miss the playoffs, and then try to go to the conference finals. It doesn't work like that. You know, the playoffs aren't guaranteed, so you have to strive to make it back there. What are your positives and what negatives do you see?
Well, see, my biggest... I'll start with the disappointment so we can get those out of the way. For the first series, my biggest disappointment was the choice to play Tyler Sagan early. Now, he may have been over his Achilles tendon injury at that time. He may have just been saying it to get back on the ice to help the team out. But if I'm the GM and I'm management, I would say, you know what? Just take a couple extra days. The team is playing good. Just relax a little bit longer. If he doesn't go into that game and he goes in at a later date, does he still get the calf injury?
I mean...
Or does he shine?
He does. He did get cleared, and Sagan said he was good to go. So, I mean, a lot of that, I think, falls on Sagan. But, you know, Lindy did say that he kind of wanted to hold him back. But Sagan, this is your arguably best player, and it's the playoffs. So you know he's going to try everything he can to get in the lineup. I understand where you're coming from and that being a big disappointment. But then again, I think it kind of really relied on Sagan making that decision and wanting to go in. It was, in hindsight, it was a little selfish of him. But we'll go back to what you were saying.
Oh, it's just like, sometimes you just, especially if Lindy had that feeling, to hold him back a little bit, just do it 1 or 2 extra games. I mean, the Dallas Stars proved that they didn't really need him against Minnesota. And he, just thinking about how much of a big help he would have been against the Blues in the second series, really, makes it sour. I mean, the positive thing, Jamie Benn, first series, he showed that he is a playoff player. He's a playoff caliber player. He got a lot of goals, a lot of big points for him. So I think that will ultimately help him develop into an even better player for next season. Maybe a Rocky Richard trophy to even it out. Biggest disappointment of the second series, Jamie Benn. I mean, it seemed like he did a complete 180 of his play on how he played in Minnesota, because you noticed him. He was out there, he was hitting, he was scoring. When we get to the Blues figured out how to play against Jamie Benn, double teamed him, he's non-existent. Yeah, he gets a goal here or there and a couple points, but the big overall impact that he should have had in the games was just not there. Biggest positive for round 2, they got out of the first round. They got to the second round to game 7. It's like you said, it gives them that extra confidence, that push. Granted, they had a terrible game 7, but I think hopefully they'll look more toward the positive, that they can go far into the playoffs next season.
I think if we're talking about player disappointment, I think in the second series, I think Patrick Sharp has to go into my biggest disappointment, because he didn't really show up in that one. I think he did what he could, but I think he could have just done more.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't really think our first or second line really showed up.
Yeah,
I think we relied so much on our third line of Fox to score goals that, I mean, Blues pretty much made our top 2 lines non-existent in the games besides Janmark.
Yeah. I'm anxious to see where this offseason goes. I know Spezza, Sharp, and everyone like that is back. I'm anxious to see if they make any offensive changes to this team, especially on the wings. If they try to go get someone big, I would want someone bigger on the wings. But I'm mostly anxious to see what they do with defense and goaltending, because that is the biggest deficiencies that this team has. So, let's give playoffs, the entire scope of playoffs for Dallas, a rating. We already know this is going to be a bad rated game, but in playoffs, in hindsight, what do you rate the playoffs?
I give it a C-. Passing grade, but not by much.
I can see that. I think a solid C would be my rating for this, because the defense really showed it was lacking. Goaltending was shaky when we needed them the most. So yeah, and I think maybe in a couple of weeks we'll sit down, maybe do like an in-depth look at what we want to see with this with the Stars team and what we expect in the off season. So with that, be sure to subscribe, Hit the like button. Leave any kind of feedback down below. Remember, this is a show for fans, by fans. And, like always, tune in next time.